podcast where we highlight artists, their art, and sometimes we talk about the business side of art. Hey, we are going to be together for about an hour, and we would love your interaction. So here are a few things. It works way better when I have my mic on, okay? And I know which camera I'm looking for. This has been a long day, but this is Creativity in Focus. I'm Shahar Boyayan, your host, and this is a podcast, a weekly podcast, a live weekly podcast, where we talk about art and artists and, you know, the business side of art as well. You may be watching on YouTube, you may be watching on Instagram, maybe you're watching on Facebook. Whatever you're watching, there is a chat box near you, either on the side or below that. Well, what is that chat box for? For you to interact with us. Yes, we are live for that reason. We love your input, and for sure we love your questions. I will get the questions here on my tablet, and we'll be able to ask these amazing artists right here. Now, there is one thing that you could do that would really help us, is share this podcast. You can share on your profile, on groups. We are not going to be selling anything, so it's safe to post on groups. You can share whatever you want, but it does help. And it really helps if you do that right at the beginning of the video that you're watching, because that's how most social network places will decide, should I show this to more people or not? As well as saying hi, where you're from, all these things help the video show up there. And all we are doing here is really promoting the art and the artists. So if you could take just a second to do that. And if you're on Facebook, don't forget also to like our page. We do appreciate that. Today our topic is sculpting, as you probably already know. That's why you're here. And I have with me three amazing sculptors. Karen Baker, Noemi Smith, and Apryl Jensen. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Great.
We were talking a little bit before we got started about what we are going to be talking about. And if we have some of their work, we will show you later. But we already did for each one of them. We had one exclusive Creativity in Focus talking about their art specifically. So if you're curious about what they've been sculpting, I suggest later you go and watch that. They are all available, creativityinfocus.com or the Creativity in Focus Facebook page. They're all there, so you can just watch. That's really cool. They were all very interesting and fun, right? All of them. So today we decided to talk about a little bit more about the career of a sculptor. Where is it going? Is it going? And what triggered my, idea of talking about this was, and I mentioned to you, Noemi, yesterday, an article we saw on a chat, on a forum, about a Hollywood sculptor that was saying that CGI actually killed the business, right? But of course, he's specifically in the movie industry. But my first question to you is there a future for us sculptors? How do you see that? You want to go first? You're thinking about it.
Is there a future? I would say that the movie industry has definitely been hurt. So I don't think it's like books. Everyone reads books still.
Yeah.
People love handmade things. So I don't know. It's hard to say in the movie industry, but for us as artists and sculptors, I don't see my collectors ever saying,
to a piece.
Karen, we're done. So, I think there's always going to be a market where people love handmade things and they love things that are unique. So,
what about you guys?
There's actually a lot of sculpting in the movie industry.
Still.
A lot. There's a lot. I mean, a sculpture involved on the movie industry. And the fact that you could replace that with CGI imagines this, it's really being hurtful. But there is always the debate, because that is happening for sculptors too, with the ZBrush, with the digital sculpting.
Yeah, ZBrush.
Yeah, and I am pretty positive sadly, it might be happening. I hope I won't see that happening. Even I myself, I'm interested, and I will be taking classes of digital sculpture. Because
ZBrush, you mean?
Yes,
ZBrush.
Yeah,
yes,
I am into that path also.
So do you think it's something that is hurting, or is something that is just evolving, or giving another
expanding,
option?
maybe.
Expanding.
Yeah.
Right now, you will have those those two sides, and I guess they're pretty much each one have their own way to seeing things. Like, I am a firm believer that nothing digitally made can replace the real deal. Talking 100% about the movie industry. Come on, having a puppet of a dressed up character in a suit, and this suit has to be sculpted first and then casted and make it even the prostheses that they use for the special effect, those things have to be sculpted by hand. And then it's a way different sensation and than having an animated digital creature or whatever you want to put into the movie. And at least I am able to tell. I don't know, you guys will be able to tell which one is the real, which one is the fake one. But it truly, the real thing has a soul. You have an actor there, which is a living thing compared to the digital. That I have heard that many times. Then even a big sculptors and talking about that. It just have no soul. It has nothing. It doesn't give nothing to the.
What do you think, Apryl?
I think the same thing applies to what the works of art we have. Like, especially like when I go over to Karen's place and just look at her dolls, and they speak back to you. You know, like it's just they draw you in, and that's something that you've just had a reproduction made of, and then just pop them out over and over. Like, that piece isn't going to have that connection ability that the one that the artist poured all of their time into. And so I think they're really separate things.
Yes, that's what
like,
I
are you
think
looking
too.
for something quick that's just a mold manufacturing thing, or are you looking for something that's going to be a piece of art that's going to speak with you too?
I agree with you, because what I think is they are two different things, and they both have their places. There is a term, I think I used actually that term on your class, if I'm not wrong, wabi-sabi.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? It was yours, right? And it's a term that defines what's not perfect. But it has that flavor that gets you engaged. So you mentioned books, and I mentioned at that time that the sales of ebooks. So ebooks are a cool thing. I have on my devices, and I do use them. But I love books. I love the touch. I love to go through. I love to scribble everything. Right? And it's exactly what happened on the beginning of the ebook, especially the e-readers. The sales went like this. But now they've been flat for about 2 or 3 years. And that's it. You can have 1 million books there. It's all fantastic. But people like the wabi-sabi.
You want
the imperfection, the smell, the relationship.
Even the smell.
Everything. Every single thing. The smell, the crinkle. Same thing with long plays. And today you have, there's not even CDs anymore. Whatever they're listening music, digital music as a whole. And replays are, the long plays are selling. And selling well. The records, right? So why? Even though it's not perfect, it has the crinking sound and everything, it gives you an experience that you really engage with. And I think when it comes to sculpting, I want to show some of your pieces right now, and then we'll continue with our conversation. Amanda Short say, thank you, Noemi. Yes, soul.
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 Amanda, you said they don't have soul?
Oh,
She's saying,
Amanda.
yes, soul.
Yeah,
Okay, do we have some? Let's show the first one.
I love that one.
that's mine.
That's yours. Tell us about it.
She's a shaman woman.
Shaman.
It's like a witch.
Wow.
And somebody told me in a show, and it's really funny. I love horns. I love making. I had so many characters with horns, and well, he put it in a funny way, but I like the phone concept.
Yeah.
And I like to do just that. That's the twin sister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They are racing. They're racing.
They are resin now.
Yeah.
Well, but the original sculpt was polymer clay.
That was paper clay.
Paper clay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the original was paper clay.
Okay.
That's mine.
Karen's.
I was going to say that. Tell me about this guy.
So cute.
He actually comes from an old Russian folklore, I think. I don't know if it's, So it's Old Man Winter, and he goes through the coldest parts of the country, rescuing things that are cold, things that are frozen, things that need food. That's why he has a little nest with some eggs in it. He has a little pack with some food on him. He doesn't get cold. He's Old Man Winter, and yeah.
It's very cool.
So that's him. Oh, you know what?
That's your old piece.
That was my very, very first doll.
Are you kidding?
I remember, yeah.
Made that.
I remember that
Okay,
one.
you're not going to believe this.
She was talking about that.
My very first doll, before I took a course, was also a cook.
You're joking.
No, I'm going to bring that tomorrow. It's on top of my fridge.
I'm not kidding. That was my
It's not-
very,
it doesn't look
very
that good, though.
first one, and I was so proud of it.
Uh-huh.
I remember just going, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" I couldn't stop sculpting after that. I was
Really?
just, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Mine looks like an alien. But it's still a cook.
That's funny.
Okay. Oh, that's
mine.
April's, right?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, merman.
Uh-huh.
Love him.
Yeah, I love to do the full body sculpts because just to look at the body sculpture and all the musculature, it's been really
me
fun to
too.
just study the body.
So fun. That's a really good one.
Very cool. That is also yours.
Yep.
Pretty.
That's
I love that
mine
you
too.
make nudes. When
you?
I was doing people, I was in love making nudes. I love that.
They
And
just
the-
look so lifelike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's part of it.
it's just beautiful. Just
Yeah.
even if they bang me in groups and whatever.
Yeah.
They're
It's
polymer
so
clay as
silly.
well, right? All yours?
Yes.
Polymer clay?
Yep, polymer clay. Yeah.
Do you have, oh, we don't have more. Okay, so first a few comments here. Brandy Childs, humans are tactile. We connect better when we can feel the real.
Yes.
And I think so too. Kathleen Gaylord saying, great information. And Jesse Reichart, maybe, says hi. Now,
Hi. I have something to say there.
Yes.
That word connect.
uh-huh.
I think that's really what all this is about. Just keep that in mind. This is about connecting. That's why it's the relationship with the piece. That's why it's the relationship with people that you meet with it. The sculpting and being a sculptor is a lot more than just that you make this creation. It opens you up to this whole world of like-minded people who you can then converse with and share ideas back and forth, and you have this synergy that comes about too. And so,
Yes.
well, that's why we're here today, to share more of that with you.
And we have to touch on the topic of storytelling. For example, you show the Winterman, or the, how do you call it?
Old Man Winter.
Old Man Winter, and you told the whole story, what he does, that he collects. Is this how you create, or do you think, oh, no, I'm going to sculpt an old man, or a nude, or somebody with horns, or do you have that story in the back?
I am a
or
full
not?
100% make what I see. If I see something nice, and I am very lover the fantasy movies and whatever, and you will see many of my pieces are based, is a character from a movie or something like that.
Yeah.
I get inspiration from fantasy, from the stuff like that.
And almost 100% of your pieces are fantasy pieces,
Yeah,
right?
I'll say that, yes.
What about you?
Close. I do a lot of babies and things too that aren't exactly fantasy, but yeah, I just like to have a broad range. The
But
fantasy
do
is
you
always
just
fun.
decide to make a baby, or do you have a story behind that
Okay,
you create?
so a lot of times I just kind of go by what sounds fun to make next,
Uh-huh.
really. Like I like to just follow my desire with it because I feel like that's where you already have an inclination.
Uh-huh.
Like what Naomi's describing is like where she will see things and get inspired by it, and then that builds that desire in her, like, ooh, I want to make this. And it's so fun when
Yeah.
you're in that state of,
Yes.
like you have the vision of what you're going to be creating and you're all excited about it. And like Karen with her cook, you know? And one thing that we forget is that most of the world hasn't really seen these art dolls.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And so it's something that's new to a lot of people. And so when they first see it, they have that same reaction. It's like, wow, this is amazing.
Remind me to revisit this last point, because I want to
Okay.
talk more about it. What about you? You're a character sculptor.
I am, and I usually do have some kind of a story in the back of my head that I create from, and the Old Man Winter. And I draw a lot of inspiration from old stories and, you know, the Pied Piper and all those classics. I love to pull from that. And sometimes I just like to take them and interpret my
Your way.
own spin on it. You know, like I did Little Red Riding Hood, and I did the wolf, but he was anthropomorphic.
Uh-huh.
I did him all dressed in kind of a, you know, medieval kind of like a Pied Piper kind of look. You know, he had the long coat and the big boots, and I did my own spin on that. You know, what I thought the wolf should look like. Yeah, and
Sorry, but this is interesting because as creators, we can fly anywhere we want when we are creating, right? And even when we inspire ourselves in a movie or a fable, we need to understand many times the versions that we have today very sterilized versions of the fable, right? We know many of the fables are extremely scary.
Yes.
Right? The character is extremely strong, and over the years we sterilize to make it safer somehow, right? But when we are creating, we are allowed to do that. Just fly with what we are thinking.
Yeah.
Amanda Short is saying, my question to the panel is, do you think these digital printed pieces not cheapen our work? Meaning people would want us to sell our unique handmade pieces for less. People say the figurative sculpts market are saturated. I'm so in a muddle about this.
Okay, let me get into that.
And there are several questions here.
I'm going
Yeah.
with the digital printing stuff.
Okay.
She knows about that.
Okay, when you go in that way, it's pretty much as the same as a resin casting molding a piece. So that's about that.
So explain that to me. When you sell a one of a kind, it has a price point. When you start reproducing,
It has to have a different
very
lower
different
price
lower
because
price.
it's a reproduction.
It's a
Okay,
reproduction.
it's the same thing with the digital the digital printing. It totally, completely, absolutely related to digital sculpting. They go there, they go together. Okay, and as the time is going, there are better and better qualities of printers, and I'm pretty sure, and it's not cheap though. It's not cheap, at least not right now.
give me an idea.
About pricings. Well, the machines, the crappy ones, are probably, you can find a bad one, no, low quality, they go down. I think they're about $500.
Okay.
That would be a low quality of a printer. If you want to get something like great, it is about 2,000. I think it's more at least. Yeah.
But I sculpted that figure in digital, but I can reproduce many as I want.
Actually, when you do the digital stuff, you have many options. You could make your thing in clay. You could just do it by clay. And then they scan it, okay? Or you can sculpt in the program in the computer. You have those options. And then the same thing, they print it and it's ready. There you go.
And you can enlarge it and make it small.
That is the great thing about the digital stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And you can, even if you have, that's why I'm eager to learn, especially for my BJDs. I want to make them perfect. You can make something in clay, you scan it, and then in the computer, you will just change parts, enhance pieces, or even change a little bit your design until you're happy with your piece, and then you will go ahead and print it.
But the final price still has to be lower?
It does.
Yeah,
You can
a
possibly
reproduction.
ask for.
It's a reproduction. It's not a
there's one thing in marketing. I really would write that down because you have to be thinking of this constantly. It's called perception of value. The perception of value, what are you doing? When I say, or I refer to as reproduction, means I can get 100 or 1,000 out of that. So of course the price point has to be lower. But you can do things to change that perspective. One of them is limited editions. I mean, how many dolls out there are reproduction, but they had limited editions?
Well, and ball jointed dolls often are, like either resin or porcelain, so they
you
already
can
are
number
going through that
them and say, I'm only going to print 100 of this, then they are gone forever.
That adds to their value.
Perception of value.
Yeah.
Yeah?
The same thing happened for like oil paintings and paintings. They were lithographed. They were able to reproduce them to the point where you couldn't tell if it was an original piece but the original piece went for much higher than the print. Much higher, and it's the same thing. I mean, people value having an original piece, but if you can't afford it, then you go to a print, and you frame it as nice as you can, but it's still a print. And it's not as valuable.
And sometimes you only want to collect the reproductions as well, and that's totally okay.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes
but it doesn't have to be low, right? You can work that around.
Well, even for yourself, you can see it as just two avenues of income there. You can create your one-of-a-kind pieces, and you can create your resin pieces, or whatever you want to reproduce, or using the digital printing or whatever else. But one way to think about it is like the development of the camera. Think about over time, we used to paint portraits, that was the only way people could have their faces painted, right? Because there weren't cameras. And then a camera comes along, it's gotten better and better. Now it looks like absolute reality. But did that make it so people now just want a snapshot? No. The people pay thousands of dollars for the painting.
How many of us have a cell phone to take pictures all the time?
Right.
And the good point, the wabi-sabi in this story is that So we have this amazing thing that is technology and how we can take 4K films and pictures with our cell phone. But the instant cameras are coming back like crazy, especially with the younger generation.
I cannot believe that. It's crazy.
Yes,
it's
and there is a reason. Of course, in craft stores, you find those Polaroids all the time now. But it's especially important today to the millennials and the Z generation.
The kids
and
are
why?
doing that now.
Yeah,
And why? Because with our phones, we can take thousands of pictures all day long, all we want. What happens at the end is that you have a bunch of pictures, they don't mean anything.
Right.
So for the special moments, you want something you can touch.
Yeah.
And that's why the millennials are buying the Polaroids now. Because those special moments, that's not just the 10,000 selfies I took today, they want to keep the memory.
Yeah.
It's preserving memories,
And again,
preserving
it's the
a story.
tactile. They can
and
touch,
it's
they can
tactile.
feel.
Exactly.
It's right there.
Exactly. So, I mean, I really see technology, and I deal with this. Even as a Curious Mondo, because we have a new format, we have a lot of praises, but many times we also have fearful people thinking we are going somehow to destroy their business. And this is not true. Technology does change things in the process. It does. It changes our behavior. But if you know how to incorporate that into your life, it can be an asset. It doesn't have to be a problem.
Yes.
Right? Now, the second part of her question was, is this saturated, the market for art dolls, for figurative sculpting?
I don't think so at all, just because I think it's a market that's still pretty small that a whole lot of the world doesn't even know about. So from my perspective, I think it's more about getting the word out to letting people know that this is even an option as a way to express or earn income or whatever else they want to do with it. Because I still think a lot of people don't know
there's a
about it.
handful of really good figurative artists, don't you think?
I think
a handful
so.
that are like top of their game. And the rest of them are just working to that. So as a matter of being saturated, I mean, everybody wants to sell. And I see a lot of things out there that, you know, are not that great, but people are still pushing them out there and selling them. So you have to kind of weed through and, okay, those ones, now that one is, you know, top
Really
of the,
good.
yeah, and saturated with a bunch of, you know,
You know my take on that? I don't think you can say it's a saturated market because it went through a major shift, right? You guys, you were there before, you too, I believe, when art dolls and figurative were all the rage. And then we had the market shift, we had the recession, and that changed. So of course, it cannot be saturated. We still have to recoup. But with that, will there be collectors in the future? Because that's a behavior that baby boomers have. We collect stuff, right? Will this go on?
I think so.
Collecting?
My collectors don't show any sign of slowing down.
Slowing down?
Thanks, guys.
You're just lucky.
I think that it kind of starts to evolve into other directions with it too, because then you can make your dolls and you have your collectors with that, but then there's also a lot of people that, like the millennials, who are very creative and they want to make something because, like with the Polaroids, it makes them happy to make it.
Yeah.
And so they're looking not necessarily just to like make money off of it necessarily, but to have a way to express.
A voice, yeah.
And so, and especially as things get more and more stressful in the world, people need something tactile. And so like you can use making these dolls as like therapy in some ways too. Like there's a lot of different ways that you could share your work with people. And so I think it's just ever expanding. Like our ability is to have ideas and directions to take it. It's only saturated if we decide to keep it in this limited box of what it can be.
And our the profession is not selling the sculpting. We are going to talk more about that. I just want to tackle all the questions.
I have, just before this closing this, I have younger collectors and
Younger
on the
collect-
show.
yeah, because you
and the
sell
shows
BJDs,
and the shows the shows I do with the little monsters and the monsters themselves.
Yeah.
There are people, they're young, they're not old really.
Well, with the BJDs are a good example.
And
because
BJD is universal. Younger,
BJDs
older,
aren't going anywhere.
It is.
all ages, all collectors for BJDs.
Yeah.
That's
And they
true.
collect and they spend money and they keep spending money because they need clothes and they need accessories and stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's
they
never.
are a little addictive, you know, those BJDs.
They are.
Yeah.
They also come with a behavior change in our society that because of technology, we are becoming detached out of a lot of interactions. So anything that is personal, I can personalize, has more value to me. So when the BJD came, it was exactly in that moment where people are saying, oh, I can dress like my BJD or vice versa. I can have the same hair color or vice versa. Huh?
I will do that again.
She's done that.
I have done that. I will do it again.
Yeah. Because we are looking like, okay, I go to a social network like you guys. Some of you are on Facebook right now, and you go there 10,000 times a day, and you see how perfect everybody's life is, and you may interact with people, but at the end, you're there alone, right? And really, you are one more in that network. Like some of us, we have 5,000 friends. Well, who is who there, right? We feel like I'm one more. I don't have a voice anymore. So by buying an item or a doll that I can personalize changes that dynamic. So us as an artist, we need to think also about that, because create other possibilities of what you're going to sculpt.
Yep.
Amanda Short, now to my next question. How are sculptors going to protect their work? Meaning work that already belongs to someone who bought it from you. They have a scanner. They scan your piece and print them out and flood the market with these prints for a minute price. Well,
that's just
that is illegal. No,
this has always been an issue, though. Like through any kind of
but no,
art
that's
just
morally incorrect.
And
people just
legally
usually don't
illegal.
do it.
So don't do it.
It's illegal, but we cannot also get into the conspiracy theory mindset when we are going into business. So you have to be careful, because yes, you can be copied. Yes, they can do that. I have clients in my consulting business that their products sold in stores here were being copied someplace else. You go and take action. I think a good practice is just to take a picture of the finished piece with the date on it. Because if you ever have to take legal action, you have to prove you did it first. Right? So always have and another way that you protect yourself is take the picture with the date on, so your cell phone has that capability. Take that, put in an envelope, mail to you, and never open. Because should you go to court, you take the envelope, once it's open, it has the date that was shipped and everything, you can prove you did it first. So I'm not saying just that. I'm not a lawyer, not offering advice, but this is a safety precaution that you can take with your pieces.
That's good to know.
It's, there's I don't like to talk about this copying stuff, because I think people get way too into it. I'm being copied. So if you do something that is slightly similar, they think they're being copied. You cannot go that way either. But there are moments that I had one case in Brazil. So I had this website that sold tutorials, and I had this polymer clay artist, and she made jewelry. So one guy started getting those pictures and selling those pieces in his website. So we don't even know how the pieces were made, if they were made. So in that case, you have to go and take some action, right? That cannot happen, period. But don't get too overworked on that, because...
Yeah, I think as far as people who actually... I think it's pretty rare that you actually have to deal with that.
It doesn't happen
people,
that often.
especially in this community, have respect for each other.
Yeah,
and that's really what it's about.
Yeah,
I have seen it on the BJD world, though.
Yeah,
I have seen
no,
it
does happen.
It
does happen, and you have to take action, but you also have to be careful. I invite a lot of instructors to Curious Mondo all the time, and that's a topic that comes. What if I'm going to show my technique? What if? Well, the fact is, again, I could be sitting with any of you side by side all day long like we do, and I wouldn't be able to sculpt the same thing you are. And I can make a dragon. It's not going to look like the same, period. So I think you have to think, okay, am I being too paranoid about this, or is this a real issue? That first. And then take some safety precautions on that. Okay, we have a ton here. What age groups are your collectors or customers? So let's go in phases. You.
My collectors tend to be a little older.
Okay. By older? I'm very flexible with this old thing now.
So I'm older now. So yeah, I would say between 50 and, no, not even that. I would say between 40 and 70.
Okay, so you're grabbing Gen X and baby boomers. Okay. You.
40 and under.
40 and under. Mainly because of the BJDs.
Maybe 45, maybe 50, but under that.
Okay. So Gen X and millennials already.
Oh, yes.
And mainly buying BJDs, and, well, you do dragons, you do everything that is in that segment,
creatures,
right? Creatures and monsters.
Yeah. I think a lot of my collectors that are further away are younger too, but there's plenty that are older, and especially people who come to my workshops, they're usually older people in their 50s or
By
so.
older, you also mean over?
Probably 50 to 70 type of
I know, I
age
still
with
don't
it
like
too.
to hear that.
No, me neither.
I'm not old. Well, I think this is a very good question, because I think yesterday both of us, we were talking about a friend that I have, that they're facing the fact, they also work with art, but they're facing the fact that their audience is actually dying. And they are not being able to bring new blood in. So what is going to happen to that business? Now, I know that's not your case, but you two, do you ever think about that?
I don't, but I'm thinking that the older you get, the more settled your life becomes, the more you start to want, you know, maybe you've always wanted, as you were younger, but you had kids and, you know, finances and everything.
Crazy, yeah.
But as you get older and you get a little more, you know, balanced, and you have maybe a little more money, you can afford to buy a piece. And that's always going to happen, even if you're
As they
older.
age.
Yeah, I mean, so you're always going to attract that. So that's what I think.
And maybe that is a valid point with the millennials, because people say they don't collect. Well, maybe they don't now, because they are
they can't afford
all of
it.
them getting
do.
married
I
and
thought
having
they do
kids.
collect.
So priorities are different at this moment. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean that in the future
They do
won't.
sometimes. I've seen even just little girls come to the doll shows, and they've saved up their money so they can
To buy?
It's,
Really?
Buy
Yeah,
something.
I've seen that too.
It's adorable.
Oh,
Some of
cool.
it is also the exposure. Like if you've ever been to a doll show, this goes back to the resin versus one of a kinds. All you would have to do is just walk through a doll show, and you can just feel the energy of everything there, because there's just so much creativity. And that's what people, when they get exposed to that, then they want to take that home and share that with other people too. So I think there definitely is a need to spread the word about it, because about 20 years ago, when there were a lot of people sculpting the art dolls and character dolls especially, and they were selling like crazy with it too. It's changed a bit now, except now we need to teach more people how to sculpt. Because if you stop teaching it, then the art can die, right? And so now it's more a matter of like people who are grandparents and have learned to sculpt to spend time with their daughters or their sons and grandchildren and stuff too, and teaching it and like kind of spreading that excitement, the excitement about what can be done with this.
I totally agree with you. We need to educate more, and even the terminology. So my next question actually addresses that. Olivia Fennell is saying, do you consider yourself a doll artist? I have a hard time referring to my sculpts as an art doll. We had that conversation yesterday.
We have that too.
So
well, it's
is
the word
this an
doll,
age?
I think,
Yeah.
that's kind of
That's what it is.
So do you think this term is going to go away? Like every time I invite one of you and say, so are you a doll artist? You go, I'm a figurative sculpting, which I have the hardest time pronouncing.
Figurative.
But so tell me, what do you think? I'll give my personal.
Well, I
think it's an old term.
Yeah, I like to be called a figurative artist, but in reality, when somebody asks what you do, it's like you rely on that old word doll, because they just. But then you have to back it up by explaining. They're not dolls that you play with. And then I break out my camera and I show them. You know, it's hard to explain. Let me show you a picture. And then I show them and they just go, wow, that's not a doll. You know. So, yeah, I like to be called a figurative artist, but in reality, I end up being called a doll
well, we've
artist.
got the magazines.
Or an
They're
art doll.
called
Art dolls.
You know, like
Art
we've got
doll.
the different names.
Yeah,
like
the bad thing about the doll
so.
world is just it related to a toy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's totally related.
So you just have to
It's
explain
related to a
yourself.
toy, but it's not toy art.
Yeah. All
So
you have to do is have a
that's-
picture handy, and as soon as you show it, they get
So
they get
what's
the
wrong
really quick.
with saying we are sculptors? Because I really don't get that.
Well, that's what I
think
say.
art dolls, I think, is a dated term. It doesn't explain what we do. Because really, if I have to tell somebody I make art dolls, I know they are looking, this is a creepy lady. There's something wrong with her. So I don't feel comfortable saying
No,
that.
I say
I
sculpture.
cannot say the word figurative anyway. But why is not sculpting? Don't we get some form of clay or material and turn into something else?
Yeah, I say sculpture. When people ask, I usually say I'm a sculpture artist, and then they'll say, "Oh, what do you sculpt? What do you know, what
I
medium?"
like that, a sculpture
Yeah.
artist. That's
And
nice.
then I'll explain. Okay, I'm a figurative sculpture artist. I sculpt sculpt figures, and then I'll break out the pictures. But for the most part, I just say sculpture. I'm a sculpture artist.
I will say I'm a sculptor too.
I'm a sculpture artist
Or a
because that's what I am. It doesn't matter if I'm sculpting dolls or dragons or dogs or horses. It's a sculpture
made from scratch. It's
and
sculpted.
it's a sculpted. Yeah,
Yeah.
There's no question.
And Olivia's also asking, what got you sculpting to begin with? So why sculpting? I know you have a background sewing, right?
In art in general, I was a painter before I.
Oh, you were a painter before. Oh.
Painter, and I've always been a sewer. Always sewed my own stuff, but sculpting really appealed to me just because it's so dimensional. You know, I just loved the 3D-ness of it. You know.
Yeah. What about you?
I was a lonely housewife, didn't have anything to do in the house. So one day I started searching for...
I was born a poor...
I was born.
I was by the river in my van.
And I found out about the Paul McClay fairies and dolls, and I was like, oh my gosh.
It's just clay.
Was that my line?
Yeah.
That sounds like my line.
Yeah, but I never touched clay before that though. 13 years ago. Yeah, about 13 years ago, I never touched clay before. I used to draw, like Corvo, the black and white, the pencil drawing.
Pencil drawing.
And a little bit of a painting with the colors, but I didn't really ever touch clay or did something with clay.
Okay.
That's it.
What about you?
Yeah. Well, for me, I could draw a little bit, but like my brother and sister drew, and I was like, well, I don't draw like that, so I must not be very artistic. You know, that's what I thought. But then later, when I had the chance to work with clay and just have the three-dimensional effect of it, I found it worked a lot better. Like I could create what I intended to. But yeah, I think most of us who have come into this, they had that jaw-dropping moment where they see it online somewhere, you know,
and
they're
they
just
say,
like,
I want to do
what?
it.
Yes,
you
I
always
have lots of those.
You always have some kind of a call, artistic call in your life. But like, I probably draw since I was 6 years old. And actually my draws, not to brag on myself, but my drawing was always better than everybody else's. And everybody will knew me, my family, my family's friends, because I was a great artist, drawing and painting and doing that kind of stuff. I just never touched clay. And many times the thing I see with my students is that if you're able to draw, you nicely draw human figures, faces or whatever, you might be great with clay.
And also the opposite could be true. If you aren't very good at drawing, clay might be easier for you. That's more the experience I have.
Sometimes that happens. I just noticed that people who have basic skills drawing, they were good.
They're usually pretty good in
sculpting. Yes.
They catch on very quick.
Yeah.
And I know some of the best artists out there are almost always really good illustrators.
Yeah.
Almost always.
I'm the exception then, because I can't do it. But you know, my moment with sculpting came. I always like to make stuff, so I always craft a lot. But it was in a difficult moment in my life. I had divorced. I had a 4-year-old, and I had a talent agency, but with the divorce, everything went away. So I was really in need to make money. And living in Brazil, it's a very mystical country, so they believe in crystals, they believe in magic. And it was easy and cheap to get crystals, quartz and stuff like that. So I decided to make some gnomes with epoxy clay. So I went to a hardware store.
Those are very famous, the Back to America.
Yeah, with tiny little hats. They still are. This was many years ago.
Still.
And I would put them in an egg carton, the ones that close, and show people. And I made money. I sold hundreds of those. But then I also thought, I can make little creatures.
Isn't that exciting?
That's how it started. Yeah.
This might sound weird, but sometimes I feel like I'm God. I'm a God. I'm a God making something,
giving life to something.
Giving life to something.
Yeah, I agree. Tammy Everslage, which is also she does soft sculpting. She makes teddy bears. Most artists made reproductions of their own work are still very limited in quantity. When people think of molds, often they assume mass production. I hope to learn to make porcelain BJDs, and I have learned that it requires an enormous amount of work far beyond sculpting and finish one doll. It is in no way mass produced.
Right.
I think that's a very good point.
Porcelain, period.
Porcelain is
cannot be mass produced
because it's a whole other ball game.
Because in the end, the molds wear out, and it's just like
They wear out fast.
Yeah, it wear out. It wear out. You
so
can't
it's
just
not going to be a large.
Well, even
quantity
silicone,
anyway.
even silicone molds will wear out. It's not like forever
Right,
thing.
definitely.
It will give you way more than a porcelain, as long as I know from the bitch is the what is her name? The lady in the show. You were with her, the one who.
Corey?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What I heard
What's
from
her
her.
name?
Corey Leopard.
Corey Leopard.
Corey Leopard. Okay.
It just only pulls only 10 dolls, and then the mold is done.
Oh, she pulls 10 porcelain
Yeah, to
dolls
make
and
porcelain,
it's
and then the mold is done. I didn't knew that.
Yeah.
I was shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very many when you think about it.
Okay, in silicone you will get quite more than that, but
Right.
it will come a time that where
Any
start
mold in
cracking,
plaster
breaking,
would
you can
also
use it.
not
Yeah.
be. I remember I used to make a lamp, and I sold to decorators, so they would sell to homeowners, and it was a plaster mold, and it also would give us, I think, 40 out of
you
each,
see,
and then
yeah,
it was gone.
it's
Yeah.
still.
Christina Cat Allen saying, what an amazing group of artists. Love from Ireland. Hey, Ireland.
Hi.
Joyce Emans, I think she's in the Netherlands. Ooh, that shirt Noemi is using, so cute.
Wait, you don't like my shirt?
Come on.
Come on.
And Waller, I have several designers that draw and design rubber stamps. Their designs have been copied, manufactured, and sold from China as unbranded. Very difficult to stop this happening. The best thing to do is to educate people not to buy from these suppliers. They are, in fact, organized criminals.
Yeah.
Very
it's
true.
true.
That's true.
Yeah, in
It's
everything
true.
that we do, there is education involved.
So I have a story about that. So I was in love with this Sphinx ball jointed doll that somebody had done. It was so adorable. I was like, but it was $1,200. I couldn't afford that. So I'm scrolling and scrolling through the eBay one day, and I saw this well, it was the same thing, but it was like for $300.
Whoa.
So I showed my friend who was a BJD artist, and she said, oh, you cannot buy that. And I said, well, why? She said, you just can't. That's a rip-off thing, and it's made in China. They've stolen that from the original.
Artists,
So I didn't. But she was like, if you buy that, you are perpetuating that.
Supporting.
And
You're
you just
enabling
have
the
to
behavior.
stop.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I didn't buy it, and I'm really glad that I didn't actually, because as much as I loved the piece, it wasn't worth exploiting that artist.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I would hope other people would have that kind of
Well, but somebody
integrity,
educated,
'cause, you know-
somebody educated you right there.
right there. She said, "Oh no," and I didn't know.
She didn't scold you or
She just educated me. I had no idea.
You're
I was
harming
like,
somebody
"Oh,
by doing that.
exactly."
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are. So have the integrity. If you see something like that, and just think about it. Think, well, where did that come from? Why is it just the same as this other piece that's $1,200? You know, it smells fishy. It is fishy.
Yeah.
So don't do it.
But
don't
you know,
buy
we
it.
all have the chance today to be in social media all the time, even to do live streams all the time. And you know, without getting paranoid on the topic, you can start educating people. Just understand, if you see a copy, and think about it, think about everybody that you will be hurting by buying that. And educate people, because many times they don't do because they're bad. Even
Yeah,
artists
I didn't
copy,
know.
they don't know.
I didn't know. I was I was like, wow, I can afford that. And it looks just the same. And she's like, it is the same.
we had questions during courses here, for example, that the sculptor is doing something, and they say, but can I try to duplicate that? Am I not infringing copyrights? No, you're not. There is a difference in between copying and modeling after. If you're learning, you have to model after. That's how you learn how to walk.
Exactly.
You saw somebody doing that and you try, you fail, you try until
That's how we learn to talk.
You learn to talk. It's human nature. We need to model. So for example, I took April's class on the ferry. I made a ferry quite close to yours, right? I was modeling. Now, if I start making that same ferry and start selling, I'm copying your work. Right? Even though mine is far from looking like yours. But you get the difference. The thing is, some people will copy to profit, and that's really, really wrong. Now copying to learn, and you're going to keep in your home, it's yours, it's okay, it's your learning
That's
process.
even encouraged.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I think it is, because how can I learn if I don't mimic?
Well, I know at a lot of art schools, that's what they'll do is they'll go in and they'll sit in front of the
the
famous works
masters.
of art. Yeah,
Yes,
then
and
just,
you'll try, right?
Yep.
So there's nothing wrong with that, so don't confuse things. Terry is saying, don't worry about age of collectors, because people have always collected things they appreciate.
That's
There
true.
will always be a market for quality work.
Right.
Very
I
true.
love
That's
that.
encouraging.
Betty is saying hello from Mijas, Spain. How much
Hello.
time do you...
Hola.
Hola. How much time do you actually dedicate to learning and perfecting your skills? So the time that you stop to learn something. How much time do you think of your day?
Not enough.
Not
I
enough.
say that because
Yeah.
that's also so enjoyable too. Like it's really fun to learn more things with it. But I don't know, like Karen and I, we've been getting together to sculpt
Oh,
with
cool.
another
Yeah.
friend
Oh,
Sherry
you have your
nearby,
little group,
and-
local group.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
and so that's
And I'm
something that
excluded,
people can
okay.
do, and it
No,
helps.
we're going to invite you next time.
Yes.
Whatever.
Talk to the hand.
Whatever.
Either. I didn't need that.
You're not
Yeah,
here.
see?
Yeah,
You're not even here,
I know,
so.
I know, I know.
But
So
that's
you've
something
been
that
creating
people can
time
do.
for that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can connect with people, and then you help encourage each other, and just even to set the time to do
Oh,
it.
it's been great.
It
It's
really
been,
has.
it really inspires you to take the time to sculpt. And it's just fun to be together.
It is.
And
It
laugh
is.
and have
I
fun.
am a huge advocate of belonging to groups and guilds and associations because I belong to groups that I really don't even practice, like spinning, for example. But I love being there because as they create, as I see them excited and I see them problem solving,
Yeah,
that
problem solving, we
inspires
did
me
that.
in other things. I go to a carving group. I'm a terrible carver. I love going there. You see, you learn, and you get with like-minded people. We are there to create.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, let's leave the world out. And also, it's a great buffer for a bad day. So today we had issues. I'm going to 2 groups. But no, it is important. What about you, Noemi? How much do you dedicate to perfecting your
I
skills?
always try to keep learning, and I had a bad start in the beginning because I had no money to invest in classes, like zero. So I tried to learn everything I could find online, but lately when I had the money I have paid for classes. Sadly, just the guy, the artist that I took the molding and monster class, that was the first in person, because it's hard really to find an in-person class, and it's also very expensive. Very
yes.
expensive. So
I would say months. You
I
take.
was I was going for lately online classes pretty much, and my way of learning. It had to be a video or something like that. I don't really learn from books. I bought the Mark Dennis book, and I was like, the theory atomic. But I don't know. I was able to understand, yes, and it's beautiful. The artwork of his book is excellent.
But you're more...
And I had it signed by Mark, so it's my precious book. But I am more of a very
Visual.
practical visual person. So yes, lately, now that I can, I have been taking online classes. Yeah, just to keep
updated.
I would
learning
say
and growing.
when I start something, I take months to learn it. I invest months, if not years. Depends on how good I get at it, how quickly. But I just don't. It doesn't matter. I don't set a set time, but I'll say months. It takes months to learn a new, like molding or casting. I took a class in Arizona, and it's still not. I still feel really not real comfortable with it.
Yeah,
so, and that was
I
months
thought
ago.
I was safe making it on my own, but no, I made too many
Yeah, no,
mistakes. I ended up just taking the
It's-
class. I
take
was
the
lucky
class.
to have these artists pretty much close to me.
Yeah, you're
I took
in a good
advantage.
place for that.
I took
Yeah.
advantage.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, it's so nice to take the classes because, like, for me, I already sculpt BJDs, but I took Naomi's class. I came
That
to
was a
San
fun
Diego,
class,
and it
yeah.
was, and some of it was, I was curious what she did and what her technique was, just to learn that part. But I also knew it was going to be an environment of connecting with other artists that were there, and all the different tips that we would share, and then
Yeah,
the fun
because
memories.
we all
so
have our little
it goes
things.
far
We
beyond.
do things
Yeah.
different. Like I was impressed watching her class when she was here in correspondence. I was like, oh! I was more impressed of you making the baby in one piece, though. The whole thing in one
Yeah,
plate.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know.
That's so amazing. You know, I waited actually a long time to be able to take a class because in Brazil I couldn't find somebody. And I did a little bit of stop motion animation.
Oh, cool.
So I always wanted to create armatures and that could move and everything, but I didn't have a source to go.
It's pretty hard though. It's pretty hard.
Well, it's pretty hard, but it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But I didn't have, so I came here and I couldn't find. Then I found about Jack. He was my first instructor. And I waited 2 years because I couldn't afford to go to Vegas to take the class.
But
then he moved here, so I was like,
Oh,
now we're going.
now's the time.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't have online in my time, so.
Yeah.
The only thing I regret is not taking a class like him. I would have loved taking a full class with Mark Dennis, for example.
Yes.
I probably.
Yeah, I
sad
regret
about
that too.
Yeah.
I could have.
But now I
and
take
didn't.
classes with everybody.
Yeah.
And I go home, I
Smart.
have this thing inside me that I need to try. So I have to try whatever is being taught. And then many things I say, this is not for me. But in others, then the next one is, okay, how can I make it better? I'm not great, but I have to try and I am a problem solver by nature. So I need to see, okay, how can I perfect this nose or this thing until I do.
We are all kind of like that.
Yeah.
No, aren't we?
Yeah, to a
Yeah,
degree,
for
definitely.
sure.
Yeah, it's like I don't sleep if I need to try something.
Oh, I pulled
don't sleep.
all-nighters.
Yeah?
You know, from the classes.
How did she make that way?
I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out if I have to stay up all night.
Yes, I'm exactly the same. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say just about the classes that what I've been noticing as I've had people come out to the workshops is that what they take away the biggest is confidence.
Yeah.
It really is the confidence
Good.
that now they feel like, oh, I can go through
can
this and
do
make a
this.
doll, and then they go home and they feel like, oh, I can do this. I remember, you know, and that makes a huge difference
Yes.
because so much of this is just keep going, just keep
Don't give up.
sculpting
Yeah.
because your brain is wired to get better and better at whatever you do. And so as long as you keep doing it and do things like, you know, use more reference photos, like there's ways that you can improve your sculpting skills. And the more that you do, all these worries about whether your work is going to be, whether it will sell or whether it's copied or all these other things, like
They fade a little
they
bit.
fade away because as long as you keep making something that is beautiful, that makes people have that reaction to it, that they gasp or like, oh, that's, you know, it's always going to sell. You'll always find a home for that because it
Absolutely.
has that
And the
value.
fact that even when they are very ugly, I've sold things that when I look today, I say, oh my gosh, did I sell that?
But it
People
speaks
buy.
to them.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
speaks to them.
when you put that image
Cool.
of my very first
we see that
thing up
again?
there, I was like, you know, I can't, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. But, you know, I sold that piece
See?
and someone
somebody
loved
likes
it.
it. Yeah.
I have to say one thing. When you're beginning and starting out, don't be negative. Even if you think, say, you know, I'm doing a good job. I'm doing a good job with this.
Be nice to
and
yourself.
I might be a beginner, but I'm doing a good job and I'm going to get better. So negativity by saying, oh God, this isn't as good as Karen Baker's or Noemi's dragon. This isn't as good as April's. Well, maybe it's not, but be good to yourself and say, you know what? I've done a good job here and I'm going to get better and I love doing this. And that's
It was
how
just a square of clay when I started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just be good to yourself while you're sculpting.
Yeah,
It really,
good.
really
I always
helps.
encourage my students to find their own way, actually, to find their own style and be happy with that. Actually, when you get to that point when people can recognize a face, like you see a doll, I can totally recognize your dolls. Anywhere,
Yeah,
like
you can see, say,
when you reach that
Karen's the
point,
same. Yeah.
that is pretty. That's
But it's
pretty
not that
awesome.
easy to find.
It's not. You have to
You
keep
have
going.
to,
You
you have to
just
reach
keep-
for it.
I
It's
blame
not something.
myself
All of us,
all
this
the
has
time.
been years
Yeah,
in the making that we put
yeah.
into
Oh
this.
yeah. I've been
I
doing
still
this
don't know
long,
what's
long
my
time.
style. Yeah, and I think part of it is because I do like to try different things all the time, and I think that gets in the way. But I stopped blaming myself for not finding yet. I plan to be around for many years. I still
Right.
have time to find
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So,
You know, it's really important to think of that creative self as a child, because it really think about our own selves. We were most creative when we were just a child.
Yes.
Just like even with our voices, just making funny. My little kids will make funny sounds, and they're just doing it to see what their voice will do.
they're
just curious.
just
experimenting.
exploring, right?
And so, like, that's what we were as children. We just wanted to just try all these different things. And like what you're doing, like, well, this is fun, this is fun, this
And
is
you
fun.
wouldn't say to your child, "Stop doing that. You
Right.
look so stupid."
Unfortunately, many
would
times
do
we
that.
do.
They
in the
do
wrong moment,
sometimes,
right?
and you can't do that
But
to your
it's a
inner
great
child.
point. We can't stop being explorers.
Yeah.
And you were talking about this being nice to yourself. I think number one problem is don't look for perfection. Because perfection is just a shield of fear.
Yeah.
What you really have is fear.
You can strive for it, but don't.
Yes. So don't let that stop you, because fear can destroy you.
Right. Well,
Right?
there's a vulnerability when we create something, we put it before the world. Like, look, this is like, here's part of my heart. You know.
Yeah.
But the more
Like
that
it.
the more that you
Yeah,
love
the
your
worst
heart
thing is
too,
when
the
you
more that
write
you're just
mean
happy with what
comments.
you created. It matters
That's
less
the
what
worst
people
that can
say about it.
happen.
I learned, for example, I'm not a very open-minded to criticism. And everybody knows this here.
I don't like the criticism from people that don't have
know what
any
they're talking about.
So
Yeah,
for me, it's this. I will pay attention if it's a qualified opinion.
Right.
So if you talk to me, I
You're
consider
gonna pay
you
attention.
qualified opinion.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about. Now, if my cousin, my neighbor, my I don't have a boyfriend, but my boyfriend says that, if he's not a sculptor, disqualify. I'm not going to pay attention. And I do this with everything. So if you're going to talk bad about my studio, you better know what a studio looks like and needs to look like, right? Because or else we impact our lives to the point that we don't create anymore.
Yeah,
do,
we shut
Right?
down.
We can be very strong on the surface, but getting you just created something. Somebody, oh, but that's ugly. Like I had a friend that said, the things you create are kind of scary.
Oh, I hate that comment.
Right? You got it.
It's like, you know what? Shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
Creepy. I get that a lot. Oh, they're creepy.
Yeah.
Like,
Well-
you're creepy.
Well, they call me
I create
sick.
little people. What do you
hate
do?
that comment. Don't ever say that to me if you
See?
don't want to see my dark side.
They call me sick. What can be worse than that?
Oh, you're sick. What kind of thoughts go through your head? I've gotten that one too. What?
Yeah.
I don't know what your mind is doing.
Yeah.
But wow.
Okay. Olivia's, oops, there are so many questions that he keeps moving.
Oh.
How did you know you were ready when you could finally say to yourself, I can sell this? Oh, this is the first piece for me.
My first piece.
Right? Yeah.
They have that problem.
Sometimes it depends how badly you need money.
That too. I have sometimes a really hard time actually releasing my pieces to the world. I hear that a lot.
I hear that a lot too.
So I do not have that problem.
I don't have that problem either. I need the money too bad.
You have to question your money mindset, okay? Because unfortunately, many of us grew up with the wrong idea about money. I come from a Christian country, a Brazilian, they're all Catholics. In your country, I think it's the same thing.
Catholics mostly.
We grow up learning that money is dirty, right? And it's not nice to say you have money. It's not nice to say you have good things. So you grow with that thing that there is something wrong there, and that causes a disconnection. So asking for money becomes a huge issue, right? We need to train ourselves. Money allows you to do things and impact more. Right? You want to impact the world. We talked about that. I want to impact the world. Well, there's only so much I can do with what I have right now. I need to triple that in order to impact more. And I do believe we are all here to impact lives. You may impact in a small circle or in a big circle, but you are here for that. You know, we want your experience. We want your fragility. We want your strength. Every time we put our things in a closed world, we are depriving the world of us.
Yeah.
And that's not good. And money gets in the way in that sense, because if we think that's not good, it's not being greedy. You have to see that it allows you to accomplish it. It allows you to take classes. It allows you to buy supplies.
It does.
Right? And many more things. Anything to say about that?
No.
No, nothing? Okay.
One more question?
Oh,
It's fine.
I did have something.
Okay.
So I was actually thinking that question was going a different direction, which was just how it's hard to let go of a piece. You know, once you've created it
We
so
heard
long.
that too.
Yeah.
And I had a good friend of mine, that's what she said to me. She's like, I just don't see how you can let go of those things. And I said, well, I guess it was when I realized that it's in me.
You
Like
can
I
always
can
make
create
more.
another one.
You
I
can create another.
And so like once you realize that, then it was easier. Plus the joy it brings other people too. It's so nice to have somebody get your piece and just be like, oh, you know, and just so happy about it. Like it nourishes your soul too.
Yeah.
That's true. For me, because the process is what matters for me, once the piece is ready, you know, it's ready. I like the in-between. Anything?
Yeah, I feel the same. I was going to say the same thing. I had the same problem, but once I realized I could do that,
Again?
I can do this again.
Yeah.
I can make another one. Let it go.
Go.
Let
Plus,
it go.
then it's fun to have your little gallery collection
Yeah.
of the stuff that you've done over the years, because it feels nice to see, wow, I
Yeah.
kept doing
How
this.
much
Yeah.
have I improved?
It's adding up.
Sandy Ward is asking, at what point did you feel comfortable in calling yourself an artist?
Well, I've always been an artist, so it wasn't ever
That was never an issue.
always.
So for me, I'm the opposite end, where it's still like, I'm an
Am
artist.
I?
That is so weird. I can't believe I'm an
So
artist.
cool.
That's kind of, yeah, it's like, wow, this happened. That's strange. So.
And then
Yeah, but I'm like, well, I must be because
do it.
they're an artist and I'm doing similar things, so I guess I am. You know, that's kind of
what about you?
I'm an artist.
You're an artist.
I'm an artist.
It took me a while. I think it's quite recent, actually, that I started saying, no, I am an artist. I create things out of nothing, right? And they are beautiful.
It's like a creator.
But it took quite a while. Tammy Everslage, copying to learn is not equal to copying to profit. Perfectly explained, Shahar. Thank you. Terry, I love Curious Mondo. I am a bear artist, but feel that I learned so much in the various arts medium classes that you offer. Thank you. Thank you for supporting us. And you are also inspirational. Great conversation. Terry, how long did it take you to reach the point where you were satisfied with your creations enough to sell?
I saw the first thing I made.
Me too.
Me
$50.
too, right?
You can start small because then it makes it that you can get more supplies and keep on going forwards.
I don't know which one of you said that or some other artist that said, and I forgot. Satisfied with their creation enough to sell them. You always have somebody that will be attracted for what you're making no matter what level you are.
Oh.
And
Yes.
I thought that was
Yes.
very wise. And for some reason I think it was you,
It
but
was
maybe
me,
it
actually,
was
that's-
you.
Yes.
Oh.
And that's what
So
I found
no
out.
matter what
But we're
level.
so the same.
Yeah, I know. You go to groups
Soul
together. I
sisters
get
here.
it. I get it. But it doesn't matter, right? Because somebody will be attracted for
There are
you.
collectors that don't have very much to spend. They might only have $50. They can
They
afford
go-
$200, $300, $600, $100 on something. And so there are people who they're just thrilled to have something from you. I even had someone tell me because she thought I was talented with it. She's like, I need to get it now while it's not so expensive.
See?
Because I know.
I've heard that too.
See? Let me sign that for you because that's going to go for a lot of people.
Someday.
Aliyah Clay, which is another amazing sculptor. She was here a few weeks ago. Karen, that is so spot on. I used to be negative after just about every piece. That just slows down the process.
It does.
Now I laugh and even try to celebrate by my mistakes. Brings me right back into the creative mood.
Yep.
And you know, she was here a few weeks ago. She brought one piece that she had to request from a client because she had no pieces left.
She sells everything.
She sells
Yeah.
everything that she creates 1 each.
They're so cute.
Yeah. Don't let fear get in the way.
No.
Olivia, how do you deal with family? Oh, become single. They can be so discouraging sometimes. I feel lonely sometimes in embracing my inner artist. I'm going to start saying that's why you need groups around you.
Yes.
And
Like
guilds.
that's what we are for.
Guilds,
You may not
groups.
have a sculptors or art dog guild in your town, but you will have other guilds. Join them.
Yes, and learn to put up a blind. Like you were saying, if they're not a sculptor, wall goes up. My husband comes in, he'll say something, and I just, can
not
you
qualified.
sculpt? Can
Not
you
qualified.
sculpt? Are you kidding me?
Off
Get
we
out
go.
of my room.
Off we go.
Yeah, thanks for your input. Get out.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And
so
no
you-
dinner, by the way.
Oh,
and
and
the
no
couch.
anything else. So you have to learn how to just develop kind of a thick skin about people that don't know what the heck they're talking about, and surround yourself with people like this.
Yep.
Yeah, you do have to.
Yeah.
And hold a vision. That's really what an artist does more than
Yeah,
anything,
hold
right?
a
Is have a
vision.
vision
Yeah.
in their head of what they're wanting to create.
And your
And they
vision.
don't get it. They don't
other
get it.
people will not get your vision, period. So
No.
stop looking for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? I have an experience. I took a class with the lady that used to own Zim store, which was an amazing craft store here in town.
Yeah.
And she was quite old. I know she's still around, but she was really old when I took the class. And it was a doll that you would create out of plaster and fabric. Okay? And I made mine, and it's one color only. I love. My friend went with me, and she did it. And she was so excited. She's a perfectionist. So she never finishes anything because she's looking for perfection. But she finished that doll that day because she had to. And she was super excited with her accomplishment. And in my mind, I was going, now she's going to go. Now she's going to go. She got home. The husband said it was awful.
It's a
It
piece
was
of-
a gray
Oh, my
doll.
gosh.
Awful. She threw the doll away.
Oh, God.
See, now that's just sad.
It's
Yeah.
very sad.
That makes me want to cry.
It's almost crying kind of
Wow.
sad.
That
but
is.
why
Wow.
do you allow that?
That broke her spirit.
No, she had a great day, a great experience.
Aw.
She brought the confidence that she was lacking.
Yeah.
And he
everything was
just
gone because
stepped
she
on it.
listened to a non-qualified
Exactly.
opinion.
That's why what Karen was saying about how important it is how
Develop
you
a
speak to
little bubble.
yourself, because you're not going to find so much of that out there. You need to make sure that you keep nourishing that self
Yes.
and encouraging, because if you keep going, it will be amazing.
Yeah.
But that kind of discouragement, that just it just takes all the wind out of your sails.
Yeah. So sculpting in a way is kind of self nurturing. I mean, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Like,
It's
it's a
therapeutic.
little therapeutic.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
It's
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like your own therapist. Don't look for a validation from other people. You have to find it within,
happy
and
with
that
yourself
makes
there.
you a better person inside. So yeah,
It does, and then you'll find that you start having
you
these
start
kind of
getting that
people
validation.
pop into your life too, and then
Yep.
like-minded people who are fellow artists and stuff too, to connect with
Yeah.
them, and those are the people that you share your babies with. You know, that this thing that's come out of your soul that you created. Share those that are also going to really appreciate it. You know.
I think we all look for validation, and we
We
like
do.
when
That's-
people
that's
perceive
human
what
nature.
we do. But it is true. We need to exercise liking ourselves and what we make. We grew, and older generations.
Yeah.
We grew up with no's, and you're not good enough, and you have to be this or that, and period.
Get married, have babies. That's your
Tons
purpose.
of them.
Yeah, looking at that, you know, this is your
So you have to understand that when you're creating, it's you, and you have to praise yourself and not the opposite. Okay, almost there. Noemi is saying, I love this conversation. Lots of talent and passion here. Passionate people are my favorite kind of people. Me too.
Yay.
Beverly Oliva, which she also sculpts using wire and textiles. So much wisdom. Thank you, ladies. Ann Waller. Oh, I am the same. I worry that I don't have my own style. I do so many different things. Maybe one day something will click, drawing inspirational from several different techniques and styles. I will then come up with something unlike anyone else's style. In the meantime, I am just enjoying all the learning. So I have that issue, I told you. One thing I have been practicing is just thinking, I'm learning this new thing, not because I'm scattered, but because I know this will have a use combined with something else later. And so that eases the guilt in the process of wanting to know different things. Olivia, who do you look up for sculpting art world? So who are you consider your mentors, your...
Well, I love
I'm
Jody.
sitting with two.
Yeah, there you go.
So sweet.
Like I look at you
Just
guys,
it's coming out of my mouth.
Mention the name again.
I love the Kriegers, Jody and
Kriegers,
Richard Krieger. Love them. There's another one. Mark Dennis. He doesn't do anything anymore, but
I was so nervous the first time I met him because he was my idol. He's still my idol, still. But it was like, he like a big thing to me. Really.
yeah, looked up to him.
And you?
Noemi, really? Like I love, I love what you can do.
I do. So good.
She...
Such an honor, really. Oh God! Shut up.
I don't know if I have one, but I have to tell you that.
I have
as
so
I go-
many. It's hard to
I
name
go
them.
online and sometimes I see, and they are in all age ranges. Because I go to Pinterest and I go to DeviantArt and I go everywhere. And I keep thinking, my gosh, these people are so talented.
What's the one that does fairies in the attic? Do you know her?
Oh,
Julie
Fida?
something.
Fida?
Julie.
Fida.
I don't remember
The
her
first
last
one, the
name.
attic. I don't know her name.
Julie something.
That was one of the first I
She
ever
was
saw.
mine too. Very
She's
first.
incredible.
She was so
She's incredible.
inspirational to me that's the reason I started doing what I do.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, she's incredible. She came up
she's
with
incredible.
I'm pretty sure she came up with tiny BJDs too.
Did she?
She's as good
Did
as
she?
Yeah,
That is
Amazing. She's
But
amazing.
pretty much
She's
a
still
one-of-a-kind
amazing.
only.
Well, I read an article about her once, and she decided, like, she saw that people were selling stuff, and she wondered, well, I wonder if they will pay more if I really, make everything so
Super
incredibly
detailed.
lifelike. Yeah, and it did. Like, things went from 300 to 3,000.
Yeah.
She's
And so
good,
she
she's
found
great.
that people did care about being
Yeah.
that precise.
I read that she sat in front of the TV with this inspired me. She sat in front of the TV with an anatomy book and just practiced parts, like until she got them just perfect, But that's all she had was an anatomy book to, for her references. And she did it while she was watching TV.
I do
Their
get
little
very
kids
impressed.
riding around on the floor. It's
I
like,
do get very impressed.
she could do
though.
it. I can do it. Right?
Every time I met an artist that is a great and awesome artist, and they happen to tell you, I am self-taught, and then my jaws just drop.
Yeah.
It's like, really, seriously, really.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I love to go, we talked today about the Shifted Brothers, and I think what they do that is, not only they are amazing artists themselves, but the fact that they are using social media to empower people to sculpt, I think is a great thing. And you were there. The other day, somebody said, does anybody here sculpt anything but monsters? And I was thinking, well, that's a good question, because you see a lot of those. Do you think it's a generational thing? It's just the moment? Is it a fad? What do you think about that?
What?
Monsters.
Is it a fad?
Monsters being always things the past, the present, and the future.
They will always be.
I think so.
They will always will be.
They exemplify the unknown and the fear,
Yes,
so they
exactly.
will always
But
be there.
she knows also about that. When you make something different to a human
yeah.
character, it completely takes you out of you.
Comfort zone.
It takes you out of the box.
Yeah, and that is the cool thing. That's what I like too. And I used to be afraid of monsters when I was a little girl, and probably the movies that don't scare me now, right now, freaked me out when I was a child. But when you see how people imagine things that doesn't even exist, and as long as I heard from artists like as a Yordo Shell, I was able to be in a Yordo Shell class in the Stan Winston School. But yeah, because I know the people there, and I was asking, can I go? Well, I pay for the class, of course. Can I go just to watch him? And yeah, so I went and I was watching. He made a busting in a wet clay. He made just the head. It started with the skull, and then he fleshed it out just the head.
Wow.
Very
cool.
He's an
I'd
awesome,
love to go to one of
he's
those.
an awesome artist
me
too.
too.
But I'm pretty sure he is the one who said that. Oh, you need to know. He's the one. He makes 100% monsters, okay? But he said you need to know how is the shape of the skull. You need to know the anatomy.
It needs to
anatomy.
the anatomy.
You need to know the real thing before you can
You
even
make
think
it.
about before you can transform.
Because that's what you build off of. You know?
Yeah.
And like you said, monsters will always exist. Fables, for example, always have the monsters.
Always.
They represent fear,
Always.
and we need to learn how to deal with them.
And any artist is going to want to keep perfecting their work because it's this excellence that we seek to
Strive for
create.
it,
It's like what we see inside, and we want to just figure out how to get that out of us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so that's
We
valuable
have so much
too.
insight to
We do.
say. We need to give an outlet.
You express yourself also with when you make art.
Yeah.
You do.
You do.
Okay, Jan, did you make this necklace? Yes, I did. And become single. I have always been told that I need to get a proper job. Ooh, so many people grew up with that.
That was a classic with my ex.
For my family, there were two options. You were either a doctor or a lawyer. I said, no. I may not earn a lot, but I definitely work damn hard, pay my share of expenses, and consider that what I do is a proper job. I make a lot of people happy with my work. To me, that is far more important than earning mega bucks.
Who said that?
You deserve the mega
said
bucks.
that?
And,
You can do both, is what I would say.
And Waller. Yeah, you're totally a proper job. Come on.
Yeah, what?
What? I mean, really, we are explorers, and we need to figure what makes us happy in life.
Yes,
And,
yes.
and money will come, right?
it-
We need to be aligned.
Right, and just like expand your way of thinking about it. One thing you can do is make a doll and sell it, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the options, but you can make tutorials about it. If you don't want to be out around people, there's things you can just do at home that you can have a website or videos that you're doing showing how you do it, just to draw more attention to it.
Yeah.
If you like to teach,
You can teach.
a lot of people can't, and they don't realize that they're the expert. Where they're at, it's not very likely that there's another doll sculptor very close to them.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I hear all the time that people are having trouble finding any classes to take. Like they want to come and go,
It's
but where
hard.
are
It's
they?
not that easy. Yeah.
And
I
so
agree.
there's definitely the need for it. And so if you have any
We need to have, we cannot go into the money part, which I wanted to go, because we are running out of time, but we need to have another one talking about the other possibilities, because making one piece is not the only thing. And we also need to talk about how we market today, because it's quite different than a little bit behind. But let me finish a few questions. Emma, hi from England. Where do you think is the best place to find new collectors for your work?
Oh, gosh.
I try with the shows.
Yeah, the
going
shows.
live. Just back then in California, I'm lucky to. The Hollywood industry is there, so
And I know in England they have quite a few too.
they have a Monster Con over there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start attending those and then
so-
maybe participating.
Yeah, look around, because that's how I started into the monster business. I was looking around, I was going to shows just to check it out, and to see how the things are.
Yeah.
You know.
And don't forget social media. I mean,
Facebook
it
has
depends
been great
on
for
the
me.
age. Huh?
Facebook has been great for me.
So if you're selling to baby boomers, so 50 and older, Facebook is the place to be right now. A little younger, Instagram, and there you go. So
you just have to live out loud a little bit more.
You
Just
do,
make
yeah.
sure you're out, like let
Yeah.
yourself be found.
And
Because if you're
don't
not
put
putting your
everything
work out-
private, because if you
Right.
put everything
Right.
private, your
Mine's
information
public.
is not going to be safe anyway.
yourself easy
But
to
nobody
find.
will see you.
Exactly. You can't be too paranoid about, you know, getting yourself out there if you want to be seen, you know.
Yep, yep, exactly.
Guest 310, I think it's super safe to make a monster. No one can tell you it's wrong. Because
That's true.
Sandy, I had a family member tell me I don't like it. The way it was said set me back. Then I thought, why? Because I initially took it personally. Then I realized her opinion did not matter and I liked it. And now I can get validation from me,
Yeah.
which
Good.
is the
That's
best.
exactly what you
Perfect.
need to do.
Yeah.
And Joyce, sculpting unknown creatures is challenging, so they keep being appealing. Because you quite cannot, the brain cannot cope with an unanswered question. And when I see something that I quite don't know what it is, it will draw me to that piece, correct?
Yeah, I love that idea.
So we had a lot more planned for today. We wanted to talk about how to get more visibility and the money, the different ways you can make money. Because again, I hate the term starving artists. I
hate
don't
that
like
too.
this term at all. I think it's your mindset is saying that you have to be starving, and that's not true. It is difficult as anything else is difficult. If you start a dog grooming business today, it would be hard to make money. With art, it's not different, but it's not more complicated. So we will have to set a time to get together again and talk, because I think it's valid. I think we need to also to show another side, because the creation, the learning, all this is fantastic. But then if you have a table full of pieces and you don't know what to do with them, or you still find that you don't have a place, it's not good. So we are going to revisit this. Any final words? Are you speechless?
I'm speechless.
I have
It's rare.
something. What you were both saying about confidence with it and validation. Ultimately, what you find, even when other people say nice things about you, really it's you. In your head, you go, oh, then I must be whatever, right? It really is ultimately what you decided you thought about yourself, whether it was somebody else suggesting it or just something that you decided to believe about yourself. So you always have that ability to really be your biggest fan.
Yeah.
And the more you can really embrace that, you will be surprised at how
And
your
it's a
art
great
will
exercise.
go. Yeah.
You, Noemi?
Don't take what do you call it? Critics
Criticism?
from people that are not artists.
Yeah. Beverly's saying, live out loud. Live out loud. Great phrase.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with all of you, actually. And I think, yes, you know, worst case scenario is that you're making this thing and it may turn out beautiful, it turn out not beautiful. Someone will look, you make people laugh, you will make people smile, and you may even make people cry. But you're making them have an emotion in that moment, and you're making the world a prettier place. When somebody criticizes you, you say, well, I'm making people laugh, I'm fostering good emotions. What are you doing?
Yeah. It's a lot easier to sit back and just pick at other people.
Very easy,
you know,
right?
easy.
I can find problems everywhere I look, but what am I contributing in the world?
Remember, you're the one putting yourself out there.
Yes.
So, sometimes people will criticize because it makes them uncomfortable because you're doing something they can't do yet.
They wouldn't
you know?
expose themselves.
Or they're unhappy.
I hear
or
that
whatever.
because of my red hair, and I believe you also hear things like that. Oh, it's out of the norm. What really they criticize because they would not do this. But guess what? You chose to. I chose to. You chose to. So keep creating. That's way more important.
I'm going to say don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't
Yeah,
give up.
never
Just
give up.
keep going.
Yeah.
Just,
yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for being here. I
thanks for
really
having us.
appreciate.
Thank you guys for watching.
Yes,
Yeah.
for watching and interacting so
Hanging
much.
around with us.
We love this. This video stays. Whatever you're watching is going to live there. So take the time to share this and go visit the other episodes. We have interviews with Aaliyah Clay. We have other interviews with Karen, Noemi, and April talking about sculpting. If this is your passion, go deep into that. Look for groups on social media to join. Join I Love Arts and Crafts as well. And I hope to see you back here next Tuesday. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.